Thank you, Emma. Um, I'm going to screen share briefly the lists, the order that we're going to be sharing in. It is actually reverse alphabetical order by first name, um, just to confuse everybody.
Sorry.
But so we'll start with Susan Gunn and then go from there. You, if you can keep it please to 3 to 5 minutes, I will try to warn you about at the 4 minute level, but I'm hoping that people won't take that long. I'm going to stop this share because I know people have want to share their publication. So it just um, hopefully you've got a little bit of an idea of how many people want to share, and that's why we need to keep it short. So with that, oops, I did I stop the share? Or did,
No,
no, what did I do? Huh. I'm
you
gonna
shared a
You just closed your
you shared
file.
a Halloween picture from some
uh,
time in the past.
uh, stop the share. Yes, grandchildren in the past. Sorry about that. I closed the document, but not the share.
We
Stevie, pardon?
Liz, we had advertised 2 to 3 minutes, not 3 to 5.
Oh, thank you,
So I
Nancy.
think three is a good,
Three is a good set,
good.
right? Because there are so many people. So, and we are uh recording this, so it will be available that way. I would be incredibly helpful to me, and I will put my email in the chat. If you would send me the any graphic that you want with we can put one graphic on each book, and a description, so that I don't have to go looking for them. So that's a graphic and a short description of your publication after you've presented after the meeting. So that way I can get that up there.
Do you want to put your email in the chat?
Oh, I'm going to do that right now, everyone. Susan, is she here?
I haven't seen her.
You haven't seen her. Okay. I saw her earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
she was at the speaker.
yeah. Rousey. Rousey, are you there?
I am here, but I
Oh,
don't
good.
have a link for you. So I'm hoping that you can
Um,
pick the book up if I
yeah,
hold it up.
yeah, and
Okay,
I did post that to the website already.
thank you. I did what Liz asked, but this is a new book. It's actually a republication of part of it. It is non-fiction, it is biography. It has a new typesetting, and the added part that's the update is it has a full index. Um, Charity Cook rose in the 18th century to become one of the traveling ministers, and she traveled between in the 18th century, late 1700s, up and down the Northeast coast, South Carolina, North Carolina, over to Indiana, Ohio, but she also went as a traveling minister to England, Ireland, France, and Germany. Um, the interesting thing about this, it was originally published in 1981 by Algie Newland, and this is the completely new typeset because we got permission from Friends United Press to redo it and to put the index in. So it is now available through the North Carolina Friends Historical Society's webpage link, and you can order it directly from there, $25. Um, I want to do one other book that is not my publication. This one is from a Cuban Quaker writer who has gotten his books published in several different countries. He is a poet. He has been the head of Cuba Yearly Meeting. This is Jorge Luis Peña, and his poems are Los peces distraídos, the distracted fish. But the interesting thing is how the pages are set out. Each poem is in an individual page with an illustration that fills the rest of the book, the rest of the pages. It's a beautifully done book that he has managed to do within the confines of being in Cuba. Don't say that people can't do it. North Carolina Friends Historical Society, to do Carolina. Charity Cook, an amazing lady. She had 11 children with all that travel. So you can imagine the index with the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Rousey. That was two books in one, one time. Natasha, do you have anything? You said maybe. Natasha? Maybe she's more stepped away. Lucy Julia Hale, are you here? A lot of people didn't come. I know Judy Lum is not here. Am I right? Judy Lum is not here. Judith Rhodes, you are here. Good.
Yes. This is the transcription of a minute book that friends did in London at Ratcliffe Monthly Meeting from 1681 to 1701. And it's in manuscript form. It's held at Friends House Library. And I have transcribed it so that it is readable for modern readers, keeping the old spelling and the old punctuation. But it's available. You can buy a copy for £8. But it is also freely downloadable from all sorts of sites. And I think it's on the Quip website of where it can be downloaded. And that's absolutely free. And the reason I did it was partly so that you've got a fully searchable text. It's not just on print, it's digital. So you could do all sorts of things with it. And the reason that I'm interested in minutes is that I was told by Gretchen Castle, who is an American friend and seems to know a lot, FWCC, and she said friends all around the world all do business meetings more or less the same way. And so I assumed that minutes at the time was certainly true then, and I have the evidence for it from this minute book with all the crossings out and the gaps and the writing in the margins, that they did do their minutes at the time, and we're still doing it like that, most of us now around the world. So that's it really. I use Transcribus, if anyone is interested. It's an Austrian freeware website. It's using AI, and it can read any manuscript, any handwriting. If anyone else is interested in using it, Transcribus with a K. And that's my bit. Thank you.
Thank you. I have also posted that to the website. Unfortunately, the graphic is not coming out well, but I'll fix that as soon as I can find somebody. Is Joanna Godfrey here? There.
I've got
Go
a
ahead, Joanna.
book. Yeah, okay. I've got In Search of Hope, which is published by Quaker Quicks imprints. This was written at another time when we were all searching for hope during the pandemic. I was greatly inspired by reading the words of Margaret Fell, a famous friend of the first generation of Quakers, in whose writings, namely a brief collection of remarkable passages, I discovered the following phrase: "Therefore all turn to the voice that calls you, this is the way, walk in it, and that which turns and draws your minds towards God, the light, which cometh from the Father of light, turn to, and there will ye witness a living hope." So the words witness, living, and hope particularly caught my eye. How could we make felt advice a reality in our lives today? How could she speak to us in our time, from her time in the 17th century? How might we interpret and be inspired by her theology and language today? This led me to an exploration using creative writing and journaling, in which I discovered hope by looking backwards to the past, forwards to the future, and the now, where we are in the present time. I found that by witnessing, as I interpreted it, I could find small incidences of the living hope in life generally, and in episodes in my own life too. These weren't necessarily the big life episodes, but the small things that happen almost without us noticing. It's all too easy to pass these by. I also included some short, simple exercises to help facilitate this process. Some of these are straightforward meditations and breathing exercises, while others are ordinary, everyday activities, such as making soup, for example. Big or small, they're all about bringing us to the small moments of synchronicity and awareness in life, the pure concentrations of joy, relief, insight, learning, knowledge, wisdom, or healing that might give us all the hope we need to build up strength to move forward. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Joanna. Do you want to say the name again of the book?
It's In Search of Hope.
Thank you. Okay, we're on to Jennifer Kavanaugh. You need to unmute, Jennifer.
Sorry, I started to share it and I couldn't get back to
It's okay.
it. I'll see if I can share it now. Oh, no, come on. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Ah,
Have you got it up on your screen?
yes, I have.
We're only seeing you still. Ah, there we go. It's
Got
beginning.
it? Okay.
Okay.
So the beautiful picture on the right was my mother, and the picture on the left was my grandmother. And this is a family memoir of my Russian family. And my grandmother died in the Holocaust, and it was a shadow over my life, and it's something I've not been able to face. I've never read anything, watched anything about the Holocaust, but I felt very moved to honor the life of my grandmother. And so I've written this. I'm going to just quickly read a description. Thread of Life is a portrait of the 20th century, its times of war and peace, seen through the lives of 3 generations of Jewish women. At its heart are Dora, a romantic and tragic figure, a concert pianist born in Riga, who lived in St. Petersburg and was killed in the Riga Holocaust. Her daughter, Zhenya, my mother, born in 1915 in St. Petersburg, who lived in many places around the world before dying in England at the age of 102. And in their different threads and versions of the truth, their legacy to me. And I share my moments of discovery while addressing themes of Russia, Jewishness, motherhood, music, home, and language, as well as the vagaries of memory. And the different versions of truth and memory was one of the exciting things about it. Was a journey of discovery for me. And I hope that people will enjoy it. It's called Thread of Life, and it's out.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm really looking forward to reading it. Not that I'm not looking forward to reading some of the other things that people have said, but it's been a while coming. So, um, is Jean Mudd here? I don't think she is. Um, I know Janaki isn't, Jarius isn't. Eleanor Nisbet.
Yes, I'm here. Can I share?
Yes, please.
I can see. Can people see that?
Not that now we can see.
Yes.
Well,
Okay. So actually, my most recent publication is not on this little PowerPoint. It's Brill's Encyclopedia of Sikhism. So that gives you a clue that I'm in a rather interfaith world. And you may know that also in the Quaker Quick series, I published Open to New Light. It was interesting for me writing it because it was 20 years after I'd done my Swarthmore lecture called Interfaith Pilgrims. So it was my second sort of Quaker interfaith contribution as a book, though I have written articles in that sort of area. In some ways, it feels as if I'm dodging the important issues of the day, and yet interfaith understanding has to be there as something which is important as never before, along with all the other issues. In this book, I look at early interfaith encounters between Quakers and those of other faiths, including Native Americans, and interfaith approaches and initiatives. And there are chapters, little chapters on encounters between Quakers and Muslims, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus and Jains, Sikhs, Baha'is, members of indigenous religions, and humanists with a capital H or a small h, whichever they prefer. And it's not just about encounters. There are more and more people who are sort of dual national friends, Jewish friends, and friends who are also Muslim, and friends who are informed by Buddhist spirituality, and so on. I suppose in my life, as a Quaker, I've also been deeply influenced by Hindu and Sikh life and spirituality. And so my book that came out in late 2024, 4.5 kilos of it, with over 400 wonderful colour illustrations, is this one, Sikh, 2 Centuries of Western Women's Art and Writing. Of course, I could talk for ages about it. There was this sort of encounter, which is a Protestant missionary with Sikh women in a village. And there was this sort of encounter between Emily Eden and Maharaja Ranjit Singh. And irrelevantly, I'm happy to know that the Barking Gurdwara in London has got a relief that has Maharaja Ranjit Singh next to Elizabeth Fry. They were contemporaries. Anyway, so much for my recent books. You can contact me. And if you want to actually see my book brought to life by AI so that illustrations are slightly animated, do go to that website of Kashi House, which is a dedicated Sikh publisher. Of course, I could go on about the ways in which Sikh faith and Quaker faith overlap and differ, and the synergy and I don't know, just the dynamic of living perhaps not as a pillar of my faith, but as a bridge end. So thank you.
thank you, Eleanor. Emma, did you need to say something? Did you need
No, I just did something silly here. So sorry.
It's okay. Susan Gunn, we started with you and you weren't here, so would you share now?
Dear friends, I don't think I actually asked to speak, but I would like to take the moment to just share what the Switzerland yearly meeting working group on economic justice is trying to write. We've been trying now for 2 years, but it has not yet been birthed into the form that's actually ready to be published. And it's sort of it pertains to our discussion about minute writing earlier. This is an attempt to apply Quaker testimonies to the current economic system. And I just share that with you in case there's any friends present who would like to join our struggle to put this into print. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just writing to Eleanor. Would you put the information that was on that last slide into the chat, please? Because it'll make
Yes.
it easier for people to have it.
Yeah, let me see if
Thank
I
you,
can
Susan. When next we have David Haynes.
I just recently published my second book, What Canst We Say? And this is a transcription of a number of Philadelphia yearly meeting disciplines and additions to disciplines. So the subtitle is The Evolution of the Quaker Book of Discipline, Philadelphia Yearly Meeting 1715 to 1755. The first Philadelphia discipline was in 1704, and that seems to be an intellectual exercise, what should we say? And an attempt to prove that what we say is right. There's a lot of biblical proof texting. You can tell that what they did was they decided that they wanted to say this, and then they went to the Bible and got 10 quotations that supported what they wanted to say. But that's how they did it first. By 1719, the discipline that they wrote seems to be much more centered on the lived experience of the Society of Friends in Philadelphia. What's interesting about these disciplines is they not only write what they have to say, what they have reached a deep unity on, but they also say how it can be changed. These disciplines were intended to be authoritative, but subject to change. And at the end of each of these editions, they have a paragraph that says, if you have concerns about this, this is the process by which you bring them forward, and we will talk about them and we will change them. So I have not only the text of all of these pieces of the evolution, but the process by which they were approved. And there were lots of things going on in Philadelphia Yearly Meeting that only get short shrift in the discipline, like slavery. What can friends say about slavery? So I've included appendices on the evolution of the relationship to slavery in Philadelphia Yearly Meeting, on women's role in the writing and enforcement of the discipline, and even an appendix on the rules on who one can marry. Because, well, as I say, the discipline itself does not say much, but these were things that were essential to Philadelphia Yearly Meeting. The appendix on who you can marry is kind of boring, but it was the one thing that they talked about at every yearly meeting. Can I marry my deceased wife's sister? And the answer is no. Can my son marry my my wife's brother-in-law's son, daughter? And the answer is no. All these things that we just wouldn't worry about now, but that was the center, of course, at that point in Philadelphia. Meetings were family meetings. You were related to everybody in the meeting. So these questions became very important. So that's what this book is. And to me, the important part is the title, What Canst We Say? Because that's how we do our work.
Thank you, David. I hope that you'll send me the both your books. Send me the proper stuff. Barbara Bennett.
Hi, I am about to publish in August my first book. It's a memoir, and I don't have the book, but I have this little printout of the cover. The title is Dialogue with Kelsey, a conversation with my daughter before and after her death. It's a book about grief. I'm not writing primarily about Quakerism, but in my grief journey, I discovered Quakers and I became a convinced Quaker. And Quakerism, along with Jewish mysticism and Catholic mysticism and Muslim wisdom and shamanism, all were part of my grief journey. And I felt like it was a godsend when a friend suggested that grieving, which was intense and overwhelming, could be a spiritual practice. And while maybe grief itself is not a spiritual practice, it is a journey. And there are spiritual practices that are definitely helpful. So I'd like to read, I don't think it'll take more than a couple minutes. I'd like to read an excerpt from my book. This is in the afternoon after we learned of the death of our 28-year-old daughter in a bicycle accident in Boston. Late in the afternoon, after the initial shock subsided, a tsunami of pain flooded my body, and I began to cry, sobs that turned into high-pitched wails, and then into a kind of keening that shook my entire body. My mother, sisters-in-law, and dear friend heard me and rushed into the bedroom to caress my face, support my head, and rub my back. They murmured soft phrases that felt like an embrace. I don't know how long they stayed with me, but at some point I collapsed into a troubled sleep. I woke alone a while later and sat up, staring at something in the corner of the room, a swirling fog that made the hair rise on the back of my neck. There was a power around me that was stronger and more absolute than anything I had ever experienced, and it aroused in me a terrifying sense of awe. Abraham must have felt this when he was told by God to sacrifice his beloved son Isaac. Although I never left the bed, I felt like I had dropped to my knees. Then all at once, the air in the room became less oppressive, less frightening. I took a deep breath. Something caught my eye, and I turned my head toward the wall behind the bed. Above the spindles of the cherry headboard, I could make out hazy forms, tiny yellow sparks that twirled and leaped with joy like the Matisse cutouts that Kelsey had fallen in love with years before on a family trip to Paris. I stared in confusion. What is this, I wondered? It bewildered me. How can there be ecstasy amid sorrow and pain? My husband Craig came into the room. I reached for his hand. My strength seemed to come from the point where our hands connected, and turned to look at the wall behind the bed. The dancing figures, visible only to me, were still there, although they were becoming hazier. Certain that he knew the right words, I asked Craig, tell me something about how this pain might one day change. He closed his eyes and said quietly, nothing is ultimately lost, but is gathered into God's infinite care and returned to us as possibility. It was a paraphrase from Alfred North Whitehead, the late 19th and early 20th century mathematician and philosopher. A few years later, a Quaker friend read me a quotation from the journals of George Fox, the English mystic who founded Quakerism in the 17th century. I saw also that there was an ocean of darkness and death, but an infinite ocean of light and love which flowed over the ocean of darkness. And in that, I also saw the infinite love of God, and I had great openings. My vision was similar to George Fox's. On that afternoon of darkness and death, I was given an opening, a glimmer of light. Although I didn't know how I'd get there or how long it would take, there was the possibility that once again I would experience joy. So this memoir will be published in August, and I will send you, Liz, the information on the book and how to obtain it, and a little bit, and a photo of the cover.
Thank
So
you.
thank you for the opportunity to share.
Thank you. That quote from George Fox really helps.